right? It's called. And the family that owned this pig, that is a very large pig, they got a call from the police and told them you have to evacuate now because the fire cannot be contained and it will wipe out everything, which you can see it did. Are you trying to live in less than 5 minutes with all your belongings, your kids, and a 250-pound pig? So therefore you cannot do it. So what they have to do is, on a tough decision, a dog owner will have to do what they just abandoned the pig for them to be able to save themselves. They thought that the pig became barbecue. When they came back, the surprise for them that they found that the guy was alive. Not completely healthy, but definitely alive. He has some burns and stuff like that. And the way how he survived is that he buried himself in the mud, as you can see there. And then the fire passed through, and he got some, skin burns and the snout and the legs, but he was able to survive, and now he's a very famous pig. So what do you think brings this to your attention? Do you see right now, in the last 2-3 years, we have been undergraduate students, natural disaster happening around you? Yes. So we have seen major natural disasters. So like the Hurricane Harvey. Is anybody from Texas? Houston? Nobody? So we can speak bad about Texas. Yeah. Okay. So we got Hurricane Florence, North Carolina, South Carolina, or the East Coast, devastated. Okay, major damage there. And more recently, we have the California wildfires. Those are the biggest ones. That we have those big natural disasters that are happening more frequently, more than ever. We know there are going to be millions of people being affected, displaced, and even in some cases, injured, and of course, fatalities. Everybody knows that. We have plans to evacuate them, we have plans to rescue them, we have plans to work with them. What you don't see in the news on a regular basis is the other side of the question, the other million things that also being affected during these natural disasters. So it's going to be, every time we have these natural disasters, sometimes there are more animals affected than people. Do you know that? Why? They are not conscious, they don't have a radio to know what is going on, but also, if there is an evacuation, who evacuates them? Who can evacuate a farm that have 100,000 people or 5 million chicken hens? Can you evacuate them? You cannot. You can evacuate a city, a village, or a town of people, but you cannot evacuate, especially domestic animals when we're talking livestock or farm animals. So we leave them behind on their own. And then eventually we'll go back and try to care for them. So every time we have these natural disasters, there is a cycle that repeats itself. So we have to go back and rescue them. Okay? We have, of course, to treat these guys. Okay? And cure them. We have to feed them and maintain them and provide warm or cold, whatever is the situation, just to comfort them. And finally, the final step of that process is that they need to be reunited with their owners. Okay? That is for the domestic side. As a matter of fact, today in the United States, all the city and local health departments, they want to receive federal money from the federal government for emergency planning in the human side. They have to have a plan for these guys. Because in the case of Katrina and in all these other ones that I showed you, some people stay behind and even die because they didn't want to evacuate without their pets. Have you seen that? What about farm animals? As a matter of fact, there is more farm animals affected than even domestic ones, because nowadays we let the owners, flee with their pets. So farm animals, we have to leave them behind on their own devices, and they are really in the millions, sometimes associated and compared with domestics and the human side. And you have to have a major infrastructure for you to be able to help them after the fact in the kind of things. And sometimes when that help arrives, it's really too late. So you will almost never see that in the headlines because we said, okay, 10 people dying, wow, that's sad, which it is. But when we go to the animal side, we're talking about millions, okay? Innocent disasters that nobody saw that. So my question to you guys is, do you think how easy it is to put the logistics to help these guys? Do you think that we can say, hey, let's go and rescue these guys, let's go to the hurricane zone and see how many animals we can save? Definitely not. It requires a major logistics and a major organization level, months or years in advance of those natural disasters for you to be able to provide that kind of support to the animal side, either domestics or livestock. And you can have all these kind of logistics in there, quite expensive in some cases, but on the top of that, the people that participate in that, either veterinarians, paramedics, and anybody else like us, it is not that you can show up today. You have to be trained, you have to be certified, because there's a lot of risk. There's occupational risk, there's risk for the animals. You have to be specialized for you to be able to be useful in those type of environments. How many of you are familiar with the DART training? Okay, only one. And DART is not the ones like the UK and BBC and the dancing thing and stuff like that. No, this is the disaster animal response team. We even in veterinary school have a whole class about emergency response in regards to animal disasters and things like that. Why? Because you need to be prepared for it. So that brings me to my question is, how many of you want to be veterinarians? Let me see hands. With everybody. Anybody from the public health minor or major? Nobody, okay? So, if you become a veterinarian, this is going to be part of your curriculum today. How you respond. But even if you do that in veterinary school, you still have to be trained afterwards. It's not like you do that. How many of you are familiar with the veterinary public health club? We did some of that a couple of years ago. We brought people specialized in that, so our students were able to become familiar of the process to become certified. And we did a couple of web labs. As an undergraduate students, you can enroll and be part of veterinary public health clubs and participate in these type of trainings when we bring them to Ohio. So the bottom line, what I want to make here the connection is, veterinarians are ideal for this type of situation, and this is one of the many jobs we do. Yes, we know, probably you have seen this picture before, we are the only professional out there, health professional that is trained in multiple animal species, and our job is to keep them healthy. But in addition to that, we also control some of the diseases, safety, and of course, emergency response environment. Everything we do in this site to protect the human side and promote human health is what we call today veterinary public health, which is basically our program. Everything we do in the clinical side to keep the animal healthy or to treat them in the case they get injured is what we call veterinary preventive medicine. So if the goal of my veterinary science knowledge is to protect human health, veterinary public health. If my goal of my veterinary science knowledge is to prevent and protect animal health, is veterinary preventive medicine. You see the difference? That's why our department here, just across the street, that Dr. Wheaton was here, is the chair of the veterinary preventive medicine, and then inside that is the veterinary public health program. Did everybody see the connection? So my question to you is, how many veterinarians do you know that works in public health related issues, from emergency response to some of these diseases to food safety? Let me see hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is around 70 or 60 students in this room. So, that's the title of my presentation today. Is the invisible side of the profession. All of you want to be veterinarians, but it's interesting enough that most of you don't know what can you do with a deviant degree. And I'm going to show you the numbers pretty soon. You're going to find out that a lot of you're going to be doing the type of work we do. On antimicrobial resistance, and Dr. Wheaton and Dr. Faves are doing, to emergency response to all these diseases, infection diseases, that is my case, and so on. Do you think that is true? How many of you want to be clinical veterinarians? Most of you. Okay, let's see how those numbers spread in a few seconds. Okay. How many of you have applied to veterinary school very quickly? Did you get interviews? You already went through the process? Okay, help me as we teach that, we get to that point. as I go, one of the hats that I wear is part of the missions of the veterinary school. So I'm going to give you tips when you apply to veterinary school in the future of what is going to be some of the topics in the interview or some of the things that you have to put in your letter, your cover letter, to make yourself unique. Is that right with me? So you can get something of this today. So very quick. Veterinary oath. How many of you know the veterinary oath? Dr. Brian, do you know the veterinary oath? I hope so. Okay. Word in there. So the veterinary oath is very important. These are the ones that you do in front of your family, colleagues, peers, and the community at large in 2 opportunities in your lifetime. The first one is when you do the white coat ceremony. Are you familiar with that? So when you reach the 3rd year and you're ready to go into your 4-year clinical rotation, we do a ceremony which the person that has the biggest impact on you will, if you lab coat, it means you're working into the clinical side of the profession, no more longer classroom free. Okay? In there, we bring the president of your name and you give the oath in front of your family and friends. What is the oath? I'll show you in a second. The next one is the oath putting ceremony. Clinical rotations are done, you're a veterinarian now, and you're ready to go out and take care of animals. Then at that time, when we give you the hood, okay, and the whole protocol, again, in front of your family, friends, peers, and the community at large, you're going to promise this. This is the veterinary oath. Of course, it has typical things you expect to see. Protection of animal health, relief of animal suffering, animal rescue, rescue operations, emergency response. It is powerful oath. But what people don't think, or most of the times don't even know, even you guys, is that you're going to promise to me and to everybody in society to protect me, to protect my health, my family, my kids, my wife health. Make sense? How many of you knew that? You're going to promise twice in your career, okay? But still, only 3 or 4 of you know that veterinarians do fully have work. That we work in that human-animal interface to do veterinary science work to protect human health. Perfect. How many of you are familiar with zoonotic diseases? Everybody. Okay, awesome. A lot of my students want to work with zoonotic diseases, and that's the case. They are everywhere. We have it in Ohio, anywhere in the planet that you go, you're going to find zoonotic diseases. Okay? So there is no surprise that you go to the news and you're going to see all kinds of infection agents going on. Happily in the US, we have most of them controlled in a way, but there are others that are worldwide really threatening humanity. How many of you are familiar with the Ebola outbreak that is right now going in Congo again? There are several thousand people dying. Okay? Happily we're controlling them there. Well, happily, for them, but definitely for us. So that's the kind of work that a lot of our veterinarians do, or veterinary-related personnel with veterinary who we have trained. So let me give you an example. How many recognize this guy? I think nobody yet. His name is Tyler. He was one of my former students in the cohort of 2014. He was one of you only 2013, sitting there, and he wanted to work with infectious diseases. What do you think he's doing there? It's not a costume, okay? It's no Mardi Gras, and it's no Halloween. This guy is being trained in biosecurity level 4. This is the highest biosecurity. So when you work in infection agents, you are in a complete plastic bubble, which is the suit with the hose attached to you, so you can air and be able to work without passing out. Have you seen that in the movies? So that is real. So you have to be trained to be certified to work in that type of environment. And that's where he is. So these are pictures that he sent me of his basic training. So he's a biosafety level 4 certified person. And the reason that he was doing that is because he wanted to be pro. A lot of you come to us and say, I want to work in the field, I want to work something that has impact. That was Tyler. Do you see his face there? He's smiling. Do you know where he is? In the Congo. So this guy is working with Ebola right now. He is working with samples that are really coming from infected patients. They're trying to do different kind of research, epidemiology, anything that is to done at that time. We joke about it that I don't know if I would be smiling if I'm working with a sample that if I pinch myself, it would be gone by 24 hours later, okay? But it is quite happy doing that. So the message I want to say is there is a lot of people like us working out there. This was somebody like you sitting there in 2013. And right now, 2019, only 5 years later, maybe more than 5 years later, this guy is out there doing that and protecting us by controlling these zoonotic diseases out there. So it's no surprise that a lot of the students that are in our programs, either at the veterinary school or in the veterinary public health program, trying to specialize in different types of infectious diseases. This was an animal science major, okay? Megan, also sitting there probably 8 years now, and Megan was the first person to detect Lyme disease here in the state of Ohio. So she went into a program that allowed her to work, and right now she works in the military and infectious disease control area. Okay, so when the military sees something that is going on with infectious diseases, this is the type of thing they're going to be sending out. And she started, as one of you, collecting ticks, black-legged ticks here in Ohio, looking for Lyme disease. And she was the first one to report that now we have an established Lyme disease tick population. We already talked about preparedness and emergency response, bioterrins and agroterrins. It's a major deal. As I mentioned before, every city and local health department has to have that. Even the OSU have an emergency response department that is activated when we do things like the football game or the concerts. Have you seen a big truck that looks like a big military truck? That's part of the emergency response team. So it's everywhere. So there's thousands of jobs that require people that is able to work not only in the human side, but also in the animal side, and also is very much aware of the environmental component of things, occupational safety as well. We also do a lot of food safety, okay? How many veterinarians do you think work in the food safety arena? Do you know that the largest employers of veterinarians in the United States in the food safety inspection services? Between 2,500 veterinarians is the largest one. So just by random chance, if all of you get a BBM degree, roughly a portion of you are going to be working in the food safety area. Just a matter of numbers. Do you know that? And why? Why do you think veterinarians work in the food safety side? Let me give you an example. Okay, how many of you eat? So if you eat, then you care about the safety of your food, right? At least I care. I want to eat something that will kill me tomorrow. When you have breakfast and you pull the milk out of the refrigerator, do you know that by drinking that animal origin product, you're exposing yourself to over 20 different milk-borne pathogens? Do you know that if a cow is infected, the most likely pathway of exit for an infection agent is going to be through the mammary gland? Why? Biology. These pathogens know that it's going to be a susceptible animal, drinking that and getting sick and let it then survive over time. The only difference is we capture that milk now and we drink it. So have you thought about that? That, salmonella and hysteria, yummy, protein, natural, healthy. Definitely not. Why not? Because people like us make sure that, one, we eradicate those pathogens from the farms. So today we don't have brucellosis in dairy farms. So you can even drink raw milk and you will never get brucellosis in the US. You will die of salmonella, but not brucellosis. So why you don't die of salmonella then? Or leptospira or listeria? Because we pasteurize the milk. So we do animal health at the farm level, and we do also a lot of inspections and milk management. So there are dozens of professions working in these fields. Many of my alumni work from food animal veterinarians all the way through dairy inspectors and anything in between. They work for the industry, developing new techniques to maintain their products safe for you. Okay? They work for Kroger's, they work for Amazon's food, for Blue Apron, for a lot of these companies. How many of you have received food in the mail? Ooh, I I'm the only one, okay? But if you receive food in the mail, then most likely you have to be thinking about food safety. If you go to Progress, how many of you have seen the little sprayers over vegetables? Do you know that I was supervising design with one of our students? And her concern is, are we putting Legionnaires' disease every time we spray those things out there? So there is a treatment of the water before they even spray it, to be sure that they're not putting pathogens in the product you're taking home. Again, invisible to you, but we are there. Okay, thousands of folks are there doing that. And not only for milk, for meat, for dinner, for chicken, okay? It's so much. There are thousands of people working, developing safety practices, eliminating these diseases at the farm level, making sure it doesn't get to you. So you can see, we veterinarians can do more than just the clinical side. And as I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you the numbers of how many of us do this type of work, but you never see them. And I will tell you later what you need to know about this. Who can answer this? How easy is to become a veterinarian? So to Ramanda, easy, right? You're a vet, right? Yes, me too. I went to veterinary school when I was 17. Okay? So the answer is pretty difficult. How difficult? So these are the statistics for our school. So 1,600 applicants last year. We interviewed around 500. The GPA at that time was 3.67. This year's around 3.77. It's getting better over the years. Good jury scores, excellent recommendations, excellent backgrounds, and after all of that, only 164 make it there. So what is the attrition rate? 90%. So 1 in 9 will make it into OSU. Okay? Good news, jury is gone for OSU. I hate the jury. How many of you like jury? Nobody. Now, a word of caution here. OSU eliminated jury in a pilot project. So if you are a freshman, if you're a new student, you're in the first or the second year, do not take jury away out of your mind. Because as we assess the new class that is coming, and the next 2 or 3, we're going to be following them, and if we see a decline in our performance in the veterinary school, the jury will be planned. So plan as you have to take it, because you don't want to reach your 3rd year and then juries are then there, and I didn't took any math classes, I forgot that I even have math in high school. Okay? And there are other veterinary schools, roughly more than 80% of them, that still require jury scores. And as you're going to see later, it is extremely smart that you apply to multiple veterinary schools, even though OSU, for very good reasons, is your first choice. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. I forgot to mention, if you have questions, we are here only for you guys, so stop me and ask me, and then we will go from there. Go ahead.
So you mentioned the veterinary public health specialization. For masters, do you still have to have a GRE? If you did that before going to vet school?
Yes, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. The Commission for Health is going to be following the same path. So we are in conversation for this cycle. We are requiring the GRE. We are already in conversations to eliminate the GRE for the fall application of this year. So for the students that are going to be starting in 2020, the GRE is not going to be required as a pilot project too. However, when that happen, again, my advice, guys, if you're going to be applying to other universities, plan to take the GRE, keep it as it was always there, even for OSU veterinary school. And you will see later why that advice is there. Okay? So, if I get the whole amount of veterinary students, or pre-vet students applying to veterinary school, okay, how many of them do you think, this is the whole US, how many of you do you think will make it into veterinary school at the end? Okay, let's pray it again. Everybody stand up. Yes, let the picture come to your legs. Okay? All of you are veterinary applicants. All of you. So let's see how many of you are going to give you a DVM degree at the end. Okay? So, following the statistics in the US, these are ABMA statistics. So these guys, please go ahead, sit down, okay? And I will say, from the gentleman this side, all of you also sit down. Perfect, congratulations, you make it into veterinary school. So translation, only around 60% of the national-wide applicants will make it to veterinary school. That's you. Stay up, not yet. Veterinarians have a lot of energy, so stand up. Okay? So it means that we have 40% that didn't make it. And they will not make it that year, and most likely will not make it in the sequential years. So that percentage stays the same. Second-time applicants will improve their odds like 10, 20%. Third-time applicants start to drop. After that, it is quite difficult, okay? Okay, congratulations, you're in veterinary school, you will have a DVM diploma. How many of you are going to be working in the clinical side? Small animal vet, equine practitioner, food animal practitioner, clinical guys, doing surgery, cutting things, and doing, most of you, right? Okay, but the truth is this group here, please, sit down. And I would say from the lady on the hats, this side, sit down. You are veterinarians, but you're not going to be working in the clinical side. These ones are going to be working in the clinical side. So these are basically the numbers. First, 4 out of 10, I forgot about that, will not make it that, but they have to have a planet 2. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but this is you guys. So the ones that are standing on, it is this group here. Food animal, mixed animal, companion animal, equine, and the other clinicals are the exotic ones, okay? The other interesting statistic is that of all of you that now that are clinical practice, I would say from the lady here, all of you sit down, the gentleman too. It means that you guys, no, it's okay, these ones are, they're still DVM clinical. 5 years after graduation, 1 of every 5 veterinarians are going to change their mind about their career paths. So we normally end around 60% or so veterinarians that will go to the 25, 30 years career in the clinical field. So we end at the end of the day around 3 out of 10 veterinarians, everybody else that is basically sitting in a way working non-clinical or changing their career paths. What do you think about that? Thank you guys, you can sit down. So what do you think? Who can tell me very quick? Do you know Hoet statistics? It's eye-opening, right? Okay? So that doesn't mean that you're not going to be, you know, Dr. Bonagura, the god of cardiology, the Dr. Dice, you know, the surgeon, that orthopedic surgeon. That could be you. But you have to be aware that you go into a profession that very likely, just based on number, as I just show it to you, it will be somebody doing that kind of job. So it's smart that you arrive to veterinary school with an open mind. How many of you have friends that apply to veterinary school? Have you asked them about the interview? What do they ask you? What is the question they ask you? What can you do with a DVM degree? Because of this. We want to be aware that the students are coming to us know what can you do with your DVM degree? Or, in the case of the 40%, what can you do if you don't make it to a veterinary school? And the answer cannot be, I will keep applying to veterinary school until I get into veterinary school. Okay, fine. 3 years down the road, I will apply again. Okay, still no. Then now. I will keep applying until I have children and they have grandchilds. Okay, awesome. There is not a rule in veterinary school that said that, oh, she have applied 5 times. Congratulations, you reached the cutoff, now you're a veterinary student. That's not going to happen. That doesn't work like that. To the contrary, it goes against you because there is something that we evaluate as called self-awareness that has to do with maturity. Do you think that somebody's mature, that giving that answer that I will keep applying until I get in? It is ignoring facts. Okay? So you need to be aware of that. The other thing that is quite important for you guys is when you're applying to interview and they ask you that, what is the role of veterinarians? You better have a little bit of an answer to that. And it cannot be, well, they can be, you know, dentists. Okay, good, cool. What else? Well, they can be small animal surgeons. Okay, good. What else? Well, they can be, you know, small animal cardiologists. Okay, good. Other than clinical small animal, what else they can do? Well, take care of cats. Do you think that is a mature answer for somebody who wants to go in a profession as diverse as veterinary school? The answer is no. Okay? So you will not look good. And that's my punchline now. So you say that you love veterinary medicine, yes? How really is that love if you don't know what can you do with that degree if we give it to you for free? Nobody will give you a degree for free in the US, but you know what I mean, right? So the example that I use is this. If you tell me that you're a big baseball fan, you have a hat and so many bats and you have played in the league and non-stop, you read baseball. And then I ask you a simple question in an interview. What are the teams in the American League? You cannot tell me very clearly what are the teams of baseball in the American League. Are you really a big baseball fan? Yes or no? Definitely not. Oh, you love veterinary medicine. Awesome. What can you do with your degree? Cardiology is small animal medicine. Dentistry is small animal medicine. Are you really a big veterinary fan? The answer to the committee is definitely not. And you will find in your exit interview that this person needs more experience, they need more diverse stuff. Have you heard that from your friends that have applied to their school? Yes, it happens, yes, right? So be smart. You're going to be applying next year or the year after. So if you know that it's in there, in all the veterinary schools, in all admissions process, be aware of the numbers, prepare for it, okay? Have a real plan 2A, and have a real answer of what we can do with our DVM degrees. Then you will look like a more serious candidate for that program. You are more likely to get in. Clear? Okay, so let's keep going. 40% don't make it. And by the way, I forgot that. Do you remember the odds of getting into OSU? 10% or less. The odds to get at the national level? 60%. Do you see any difference? Odds to get here, odds to get nationally in multiple colleges. So what is the message there? Apply to several veterinary schools. Don't put all the eggs in the same basket. And pick very wisely. Different schools that have different admissions process based on your characteristics. You're a hateful communicator, you cannot put two words together. Don't apply for universities like us that are very much interview oriented. If your profile is amazing or you can, sell ice to the Eskimos, great. Apply to the schools that base the decisions based on interviews. Is everybody with me? Are you getting something out of this? Good. I will see some of you in the interviews down the road. And only veterinarians. So what we do with that 40%, I want to work with animals. I want to work in the human-animal interface. I want to protect them. I want to protect people too. I'm good with people and good with animals. Then what I can do if I cannot go to veterinary school. But you're very fortunate because here in the US you can go in so many directions that all of them will still take you to public health. All of them. They will still allow you to work with animals. They will still allow you to work with people. If you want to work with a lot of animals, perfect. If you want to work a lot more with people, perfect. So, any type of the degrees, animal science, zoologists, microbiologists, all the type of degrees that you're getting today will allow you to go into a career path to public health. So how that works, and you become one of us. So you are here right now, getting to college. A lot of students graduating, they go to local health departments, hospitals, they go in any kind of direction in the public health side, okay? But right now, you want to be this one. You want to go to a professional college, you want to get your DVM degree, and with the DVM you can go to public health related jobs. That's true to a point, because there's some jobs right now that if you don't have a public oriented degree, even with a DVM you will not qualify. Okay, so that things is changing because there is a lot more DVM, so we can start to ask people to specialize ahead of time. But that's the case today. But then, this is the lucky part. In the US, it's one of the few countries in the planet that you can go from college to graduate school. In Latin America, most countries in Europe, in Asia and Africa, if you don't have a professional degree first, you cannot go to graduate school. You have to be second. Here, with a bachelor's degree, you can jump directly into a master's or even a PhD. Do you know that, right? That's unique to the US. If you go down from Mexico down, that's not the case. It's changing a little bit, following the example of the US, but that's not the case. So that's what they asked me to create this path for you guys. To create a master's of public health degree that allowed to go from graduate schools into the marketplace, or you can, of course, do your PhD. That's a more convoluted pathway, but eventually you can get there too. The good things about the MPH is you can make it in this type of combinations, or you can go in the other way around towards a graduate level degree. Now, because I didn't plan for 15, 20 minutes that we have at the beginning, so I'm going to jump a couple of things. But this is the Master of Public Health. Here, Ivana, the coordinator program, put some materials for you that you can pick up at the end. You go through that. I want to go to the important part. That is some of the pathways to make yourself attracted to the program, and some advice on how you make attracted yourself to veterinary school and veterinary public health. So let me get to that. This is quite important. What are the jobs? But more than the jobs, what are the careers? Because you can get a job in Burger King, right? So what are the careers? These are some of the organizations and institutions that have hired for alumni. Do you recognize any of them? Yes. Probably there are jobs in all of them that will be quite attractive to you. That still you can perform them with or without a DVN degree, but only to get the proper training. Okay? We're pretty good. We help a lot of our pre-professional students, so we have a 1+4 program. They start with MPH and eventually they apply to any school. If they get accepted, they will jump into veterinary school and finish it. And we also have a 4+1. These are veterinary students that after they are there, they realize that, ooh, I want to get that training. I don't have time, we'll go to that. We very much work military. How many of you know that the military will pay for the DVN degree? Awesome. So a lot of the students get that scholarship. However, in the last 14 years, normally the people that have received that scholarships have some kind of public health background or the MPH degree. Why? It's very good for the military to have somebody with 2 degrees right away. And it's very good for you because these ladies will come back 5 years later to go to the PhD, the residency in laboratory animal medicine, pathology, or whatever other field that the military will ask them to specialize. So it's awesome because you have a lifelong career in what you know, right? And they pay for it, which is even better. Let me jump into what is important. So Ivana put this together for you guys. This is a roadmap, I have it here in the front, for you to become more competitive either to veterinary school or to a program. So what is in there? 3 things, GPA. That's going to be the main reason you're going to be judged, especially for the parts of evaluation of most veterinary school. Your science GPA, your last 30 to 45 hour GPA, your pre-requirement GPA, and your overall GPA. I already showed you that our average is 3.67 or so. That doesn't mean that if you have a low GPA, you don't make it. But it's very difficult to pass the field filter because it's a machine that tells us who has certain GPA that we're going to pull aside to review their file and decide if they're good enough for an interview. So you don't pass the field filter, it's quite tough. And the field filter is all number-based, right? So do not sacrifice GPA for activities. Very careful, because you can get stranded very quickly. That you can be an overpriced and nobody's going to see your file. It's going to be in the cloud, right? So that's the 3 things. GPA. I put it here, there's a path for those that have low GPA. We can talk about that if that's your case. GRE, I already told you, there's some advice on things that you need to do that it's more likely to have a very good GRE. Hopefully in the future that is not going to be there. Experiences. Most of you, if I put you right now, 90% of you are going to have a small animal experience. It's easy to get. That's exactly the case of the college. So we find out that 90% or more of all applicants have only one really experience. Because you can say I have food animal experience, but you only ride like 5 hours with a veterinary in a truck. That experience do not count. Okay? It can count to the total hours, but it doesn't count as a high quality experience. So the students that make it, over 90% of the students we accept have 2 or 3 more of diversified experience, either research or stewardship, things like that Dr. Wheaton were asking, or they're doing something else that can show us that that person understands the breadth and the importance of the veterinary profession. The other things, again, I'm going a little bit fast, it is, again, in the other side, we put different locations that you can get that diversity of experiences close to home. You don't have to go anywhere else. So you are more attractive either to veterinary school or even better to us because these are fully health-oriented activities. Recommendation letters. How many letters do you need? 3, maximum 4, okay? The important thing is be aware of that. Ask the people to tell a story about you. Typical mistake is you give me 3 recommendation letters. This person said that you're awesome and good worker, awesome and good worker, and also good worker. That don't give me a picture of you. It is on the same story saying by 3 different people. What I want to know is what kind of worker he is in your practice, what kind of a student is here as a student, so for an advisor or faculty, and somebody, other colleagues in some diversified areas to tell me how good of an intern you were. A little bit more complex profile of you. Is everybody with me? So don't leave that random. You have to tell them what part of you you want them to tell to the admissions committee. Okay? That's not, give me a letter. No. Can you talk about me as a professional here in the practice? Can you talk about me as your mentoree here as a student? Can you talk about my research with your team? And then you have a more complex profile when you come to us. Do you know that? So these are very important things because the ones that do that increase their odds getting what they want. With us or veterinary school. If you apply to us, please tell them that you're not applying to veterinary school, that you're applying to a public health program for an APH. And the final thing is do a little bit of research. Find out what kind of jobs or careers you can pursue after these. Like I told you before, what can you do with your DVM? If you don't know the answer to that, the same apply for a lot of programs. What can you do with your MPH? So do a little bit of a job. So this is my final message because I want to bring Andrew and Abby, please come forward. Amen. So I wanted to bring a couple of students that represent the students I have in front of me. Okay? Yes, please, stewardship. So what I want to present, they represent different students that I have here. I have students that now they are not sure they want to pursue the DVM. So Abby is pursuing PH. We have a research-oriented person. She is pursuing this path towards the PhD. So Brianna is working with Dr. Wiener with antimicrobial stewardship. She got a job offer now as a PhD student to work even more deep in the area. So I have Abby and Brianna going to that one. And then I have Andrew that is pursuing the path of the MPH towards the DVM. So I want them to share their experiences with you, because sometimes you don't hear me, you only hear hear them, because they were sitting there only a couple of years ago. Go ahead, Abby.
Okay, my name is Abby Jokers. Hopefully you guys can hear me back there. Yeah, okay. So I am in my first year of the BPH program, and I am a cohort representative. So basically, I was elected as like kind of the student leader of our class. And there are a lot of different options of what you can do with your BPH degree. So for our program, we have to do a culminating project, which is like a research project, and a practicum, which is kind of like an internship. It's an experience that you get practical time spending in the field that you want to go. So a lot of the people in our cohort right now are looking into the possibilities of their practicums and culminating projects. And they're going into a very diverse variation of fields. So we have people that are trying to work with the Ohio Department of Agriculture, Ohio Department of health, people that are in the antimicrobial resistance program. We have some people looking into avian influenza. I know a lot of people in our program are interested in food safety. So there's a lot of possibilities with what you can do with the degree. For example, I'm especially interested in wildlife research. So I'm trying to look into possibilities of maybe doing disease surveillance of wildlife and how that can affect people. So there's a lot of different options for you guys. I know some of you are going to hopefully become veterinarians. We have options for you with our 1+4 or 4+1 program. We have a couple of different students right now in our cohort that are either in that program or have already gotten their DVM and are doing the master's program now. And we also have people who are just trying to go the public health route like me. So there are a lot of different possibilities for you guys. I would suggest, as my piece of advice to you, is keeping an open mind. When I was in undergrad, I didn't even know what, I didn't know that veterinary public health was a thing until I was in my junior year. So just keep your options open because you'll never know. Maybe this is something that you'll really like and you'll end up doing something that you love.
Amen. 50%, sorry, Brian, 50% of my MPG students are the AVI profile. So around 30% of my students are Brian profile. So go ahead.
Yeah, just going off that, I was very involved in my pre-vet club back at the University of Washington when I did my undergrad. I was even the pre-vet president. And I was so into veterinary medicine, and I still am really interested in veterinary medicine. And then when I did this program, I really understood all the different things that you can do with veterinary public health, and I was still interested in research. And now I'm going to be doing a biomedical research program here at Ohio State, which is their line is helping human medicine pretty much. So it's very human medicine focused, but I really like having the background in veterinary public health. I think that the classes are very engaging and interesting, and I think it's a really great program. And I learned so much about myself and also just all the different things that are out there besides being a vet, which is very awesome and amazing, but there's also a lot of different opportunities too, which I found out.
Correct. So around 30% of the students decide to go into an academic route, and eventually we convince them to come into the dark side of the force and become faculty. Andrew?
So, like most of you, I was a pre-vet student and applying to vet school, and I didn't really have a plan B because I figured I was going to get it the first time. But I went to my interview, and my public speaking skills are not the best. And I get very nervous and mess up my interview, so I went with my plan A2, Dr. Hoet calls it, and I like that name for it because once I got in the program and everything, I realized all the different things you can do, let me grow as a person, and it's helping me become a stronger applicant for vet school.
Yes, and Andrew then, he have a plan. So he is going to veterinary school. So what the admissions committee wants to see? Diversity. So who are you going to be doing the practicum with?
Dr. Jeff Hayes at the ODA Animal Disease Diagnostic Lab.
So he's one of the top veterinary pathologists in the country that we very lucky have here in Reynoldsburg, in Ohio. So he is going to be shadowing one of the top veterinarians doing pathology. So when he applied later this year, he can get a recommendation letter telling the people in the committee what kind of a student he is and what he can be able to be doing as a behavior student in our program. So each one of them has different goals. So roughly, the students that are pre-vet in our programs are around 20% of them, and the other percentage are basically veterinarians. These are people that have gone into the field, have worked for several years, and like I mentioned before, Dr. Fayes is a veterinary clinical resident. He's also a PhD student the last year, okay? And she worked for 6 to 7 years as one animal practitioner, and she's one of those 6 that changed their career path 5, 6 years into the profession. She no longer wants to deal with a crazy cat lady anymore. Okay? So it comes to us to do a specialization in Masters of Public Health for her to be able to get the credentials to allow her to work in the human interface, the public health system. Is everybody with me? Thank you guys. If you have questions, please get their emails, get the comments. So finalizing this is my final slide. So what is the message on? One, prepare for veterinary school, but prepare well. You have 1,600. We expect next year, we're prepared to receive 1,800 applicants. Because we know that the elimination of the GRE is going to open the floodgates of all type of people who will come to us next year. So if you're a junior or a senior, you know that next year, it means September, October this year, we expect to have a lot of that. All of them are going to have thousands of hours of small animal experience, similar like you. All of them will have the same love for the profession, like you. So what is going to make you unique? Then explore opportunities outside the regular path. So when you go to that interview, then you're going to be able to show them, oh, these guys know what it's going to be. You still are going to be a small animal orthopedic surgeon, also for you, but you know the profession and you explore. You have all this summer in front of you. If you are third or second year, even more, that you can make a big difference for that. And the second message for you is you have options. There is a life after veterinary school if you don't go to veterinary school. A lot of my students today are infectious disease prevention, public health commissioner, emergency responders, emergency coordinators. How many of you live in Franklin County? Most of you. Do you know that the person that keep an eye on emergency response is one of you? Eva was sitting there 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, and she's the emergency coordinator for Franklin County. So if something bad happened, anthrax, major flow, earthquake, their response for the county is going to be managed by somebody was sitting there 6 years ago. Kind of scary if you think about it. Okay? Eva make a joke that, Dr. Hoet, you see me running, you run. Okay? Does that make sense? That's it. Quick questions so you can go home.